Hey everyone, tonight we're going to take a trip. Few ever return from, and even fewer remember a ferry ride across the river that separates the world of the living from the not-so-living. You're here with your shoes damp, your breath fogging slightly in the air, and your hands clutching a single worn coin you found under your tongue. It's quiet. Too quiet. You'll probably never experience this for real, and that's probably for the best. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get down to business tonight. The ground beneath you is soft, almost sponge-like, littered with cracked pebbles, and the faintest glimmer of silver dust. Some say it's the ashes of prayers never heard. The sky is the sort of gray that has forgotten how to be either morning or night. You're standing beside a slow, unmoving river that pretends to be water, but smells more like rust and fog. There's no breeze, but you can still feel the chill. The kind that wraps around your ankles and slowly works its way up as if time itself were whispering. You're not supposed to be here. The underworld doesn't do urgency, but it absolutely does silence. And the occasional cough from the ferryman's direction, though he's nowhere in sight yet. You glance to your side. A few other souls are here, some half-seen, some barely formed. A man with no mouth gestures anxiously at the river. A child holds a golden apple and seems to age every time you blink. One woman clutches her own obituary written in someone else's handwriting. And still, no boat. They say Karen is punctual only in the poetic sense. Ancient texts insist he comes when the soul is ready. But when is anyone ever ready to go where there's no playlist, no snacks, and definitely no signal? You check your pockets. Still just the one coin. It's warm oddly, like it remembers you from a previous life. Or maybe you're remembering it. Hard to say. Then there's a rumble not from the sky, but from beneath your feet. The water parts in the center, not with drama, but with the sort of weary routine you'd expect from someone who's done the same job since the Bronze Age. The boat emerges like a bad idea you thought you'd left behind. It's barely a boat. More of a canoe crossed with a coffin smeared with tar lined with scratch marks, some from fingers, some from claws. There's a faint dripping noise, even though there's no rain. And there he is. Sharon. He doesn't look at you, he rarely does. He's not the hooded skeleton you might expect. Instead, he's a gaunt man with seaweed hair and eyes that don't blink. His skin is cracked like parched riverbeds. He smells like someone who gave up on soap back when soap was first invented. He holds out his hand. No words. Just the hand. You place the coin into it, and for a second, just a flicker, you feel a pulse. Not yours, not his. Something else. The river. The ferry itself. You step into the boat. It doesn't rock. It doesn't float. It simply begins to glide. Like you've just joined a dream that doesn't want to be remembered. Behind you, the bank fades. The people waiting vanish. And the river, well, now that you're on it, you notice it isn't made of water at all. It's made of voices, whispers, regrets, lullabies from centuries ago. Screams softened by distance. An entire ocean of things unsaid. At one point, you hear someone whisper your name. Not once. Twice. And the second time, it's your own voice. It's normal, you tell yourself. Scientists still debate whether this river of consciousness is metaphorical or real. But honestly, that's not comforting when your reflection in the water just winked at you. Karen says nothing the whole ride. Occasionally he coughs. Once he hums a single note that makes your teeth itch. You pass a bridge that goes nowhere, half collapsed, with a single soul sitting on the edge fishing for memories. He waves at you, holding up a string of broken wedding rings. You nod politely. It's that kind of journey. Time has no business here. You check your watch only to realize it's melted slightly. Still ticking, but now in a spiral. You ask Karen how long the ride will take. He looks at you finally and says, "How long did your life feel?" Then he goes back to rowing. You sit. You breathe. You stare into the fog where shapes come and go, some human, some very much not. And just when you begin to forget what sunlight feels like, the boat thuds into something solid. You've arrived. Not at a port, not at a dock. At a shoreline made of bones, thousands of them picked clean and arranged like a welcome mat by someone with a dark sense of humor. You step off and the boat begins to drift backward without Karan. He stays behind eyes on the next arrival. Or maybe still on you. The land ahead is shadowless and the air tastes like iron and sleep. You take a breath and walk forward. The ground crunches beneath your feet. Not gravel, not sand. Bones. Tiny ones. Bird bones. Maybe. Fingers. Maybe that too. You stop asking questions after the third crunch sounds suspiciously like a knuckle. The fog doesn't lift, but it does thin just enough to reveal a figure waiting ahead, tall still and cloaked in layers of robes that seem stitched from shadows. And that face? It's as blank as a stone tablet no one bothered to write on. And that's him, Karen, again. Except he never got off the boat, remember? Which means this isn't the Karen you just met. This is a different Karen. Or maybe the same one on a different shift. They don't clarify these things. This version stands completely still as you approach, arms crossed like a bouncer, outside a metaphysical club no one really wants to get into. Then, after a beat, he raises a hand not for payment, but for silence. You weren't even speaking, but you hush anyway. Then the voice comes, not from him, from behind him, from under the ground, from inside your own ears. I hate when they're early, it mutters. You glance back. No boat, no river, just fog. You're definitely here now, wherever here is. The ferryman steps aside with a long sigh as if he's being paid minimum wage for eternity. He gestures you toward a wooden bench, carved from petrified something, covered in dust and teeth marks. You sit because you've learned by now that when someone in the underworld tells you to sit, you sit. Karen doesn't sit. He paces, back and forth, occasionally muttering to himself. You think you hear millennia of souls and they still forget the footwear? Or maybe, can't believe I missed the chariot shift again. He stops suddenly and fixes you with a look that could sterilize a goat at 20 paces. You don't have the form, he says. You blink. The form he repeats louder this time. T43B. 2 copies. Initialed by a living witness. Signed by an ancestral representative. You stare blankly. Typical, he mutters, then waves his hand. A scroll pops into existence, rolls itself open midair, then smacks you in the face lightly because apparently even paper can have attitude here. You glance at it. Ancient symbols flicker twist, then reformat themselves into your native language, but written in Comic Sans for some reason. Name redacted. Date of arrival. Technically pending. Purpose of visit you're not sure, return status minor. Unclear. Karen squints at the scroll, then sighs. Let me guess. Someone up top told you this would be temporary. You nod, hesitantly. He makes a noise that sounds like someone stepping on a bagpipe, filled with disappointment. You know how many temporary visits we process a century none. Because nobody comes down here just to sightsee. But he continues rubbing his temples. You seem annoying enough that they'll want you back. So fine. He reaches into his robe and pulls out a ticket. It's shaped like a leaf, a blackened, crumbling leaf. It smells like rain and regret. Your return pass. Conditional. Extremely conditional. Void if you break any of the following rules. He hands you a second scroll. This one is longer. It unfurls and unfurls and unfurls some more until it spills onto the floor in a pile. You see phrases like, do not consume fruit from the echoing tree. Do not pet the dogs no matter how friendly they seem. Do not accept chess challenges from anyone named Thales. Absolutely no poetry. You look up, no poetry. He glares. We had an incident. Don't ask. Then the mood shifts. You feel it in the air. The fog curls a little tighter. The light dims if that's even possible. Charon tilts his head. He seems to hear something. You hear nothing until you do. A low rumble, not thunder, not footsteps. Breathing. Something is breathing, slowly, deeply. Like a creature too large for its cave. Or maybe the cave is inside the creature. Charon frowns. We're behind schedule. He doesn't like that. You don't ask who he is. You already know you don't want to meet him. But before you can worry more, Charon suddenly smiles. It's not comforting. It's the kind of smile someone wears right before handing you a cursed object. He says you'll want to meet the administrator. He'll tell you where you're supposed to go, if you're lucky. You're not lucky. The administrator's office, it turns out, is up 3,000 stairs made of disappointment and lined with motivational posters that never caught on in the living world. Hang in there, existence is meaningless. At the top, the door is made of bone and complaint. It creaks open as you approach. You don't knock. No one knocks here. Inside, a man-shaped figure in a tweed jacket looks up from a desk covered in dead flowers, broken pens, and one very suspicious mug. He squints. You're not on the list. Karen sent me, you mumble. He nods slowly, then says something unexpected. Well, that explains the smell. You sit. He pulls out a file. It's empty. I see, he says, closing it again. No record. Probably a clerical error. Or a cosmic joke. Happens more often than you think. You ask what now? He leans in and whispers, now you wait. For what? He leans back. Mood swings. Apparently the ferryman isn't the only one with them. The administrator taps his fingers against the desk, each tap sounding more like a gavel strike than the soft patter of knuckles. You wait and wait. For what exactly you're not sure, maybe for your name to reappear in some celestial spreadsheet, or maybe for someone in charge to remember you were never supposed to end up here in the first place. I suppose we could stall the paperwork. The administrator mutters more to his dead pen than to you. But that's above my pay grade. You'll need to see the bone clerk. You blink, the bone clerk. He grins, revealing teeth that seem just slightly too long. You'll know him when you hear him. Sounds like a xylophone falling down the stairs. Then, as if summoned by the absurdity of his own words, the hallway behind you fills with a distinct rattling. A skeletal figure rounds the corner, walking with the grace of someone who's learned how to move despite being completely hollow. Each step produces a musical note, some cheerful, some deeply unsettling. He carries a clipboard made of bark, bound with thread spun from something that still twitches. You hope it's just nerves. No form, the administrator says, pointing lazily. Needs a soul verification override. The bone clerk gives you a once-over. His sockets seem to squint. He hands you a parchment and points toward a strange alcove built into the wall. It's a tiny room with no ceiling and walls lined in mirrors. You enter and the door clicks shut behind you. A voice hums through the room, female familiar. To verify your soul, please describe your most regrettable decision involving cheese. You pause. You think. Then you speak. I once paid $50 for a truffle cheese wheel, because I thought it would impress someone. It gave me food poisoning. They ghosted me anyway. A long silence. Then, verified. The door swings open and you find yourself back in the hall. The bone clerk nods, writes something with a feather quill made from a bird that no longer exists, and hands you a stamped pass. You squint at it. In ancient ink it reads Provisional Transit Level 2. At the bottom, a hastily scribbled line reads, Return eligibility pending favor from the office of the departed. That's your ride token, the bone clerk says, or tries to. It comes out more as a sound like wind chimes on a nervous day. You're escorted down a new corridor now. The administrator has vanished. The fog lifts just enough to reveal a strange sight, a waiting room full of ghosts. Not spooky ghosts, just bureaucratic ones. One man's arms are stuck through his own torso, like he put on his ethereal body wrong. A woman reads a pamphlet titled, So You're Accidentally Dead Now. What a Small Dog Barks Intermittently in Latin. You find a seat hard cold, too short. Next to you, a grandmotherly specter in a bonnet leans over. They used to accept goats, you know. She says conversationally, for what you ask. The fare, she whispers. Before the coins. Before the boat. You just brought a goat, gave it to the river, and off you went. You blink. What happened? They ran out of goats. The room dims briefly, then brightens as a bell tolls flat and off-key. A door labeled Entry Single File or Else creaks open. You join the line. The next room is a chamber carved entirely from black salt. Every breath you take here feels like licking ancient resentment. In the center stands a stone pedestal with an old woman alive, you think sitting cross-legged atop it, surrounded by jars. Each jar is labeled in delicate calligraphy, lust, indifference, envy, lunch, and so on. She points at you. Give me the coin. You hesitate. I already paid, Karen. She laughs a wheeze that seems to stretch across dimensions. Not that coin, the one in your eye. You freeze. Your hand instinctively moves toward your face. You don't see it, she says softly, but it's there. A memory? A secret? A small betrayal you thought no one noticed. Give it. Reluctantly, you nod. You don't know how, but you give it. She catches something invisible between her fingers and drops it into a jar labeled Guilt Personal. That's better, she says, sighing like someone who just finished a long novel. You may pass. You shuffle onward. The next chamber is vast and low-ceilinged. Its walls are lined with shelves, miles of them filled with urns, vials, and envelopes. Each one is tagged with a soul's last unanswered question. You pause by one that reads, What did my cat think of me? Another, Did I leave the oven on? And another heartbreakingly, Why didn't they write back? You want to open one. You really do. But a three-eyed owl perched on the nearest shelf glares at you with the authority of a tax auditor and a school principal combined. You walk on. Just when it starts to feel normal, just when you stop questioning how many ghosts you've passed, how many whispers you've absorbed, something catches your eye. A mirror. Not just any mirror. This one is oval, freestanding, surrounded by candles that never flicker. And inside the mirror, but not as you are now. You're laughing, alive, holding something that glows faintly hope, probably. And behind you stands someone you can't remember, but desperately wish you did. You step closer. The mirror fogs over. A sign above it reads, "Round-trip ticket validation, hope required." You check your pockets, empty. You check your heart, maybe not so empty, but that's for later. Right now, a door opens behind you. The wind that flows through it smells like cinnamon and thunder. You take a step, and then another, and the mirror watches you go. The door closes behind you with a slow, satisfying thud, like a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence no one was brave enough to write. The wind is gone. The scent of cinnamon lingers, but only as a memory. Before you now, a hallway that spirals downward, defying geometry, spatial logic, and probably several building codes. The walls are velvet stitched together with thread the color of ink spilled during bad decisions. Every few feet, a painting stares back at you, not of people, but of regrets wearing human faces. One seems to be mid-sneeze. One is clearly picking their nose at a wedding. One you're fairly certain is you, cheating on a middle school spelling test. You keep walking. The slope grows steeper. At one point, you think you're upside down, but gravity disagrees. You accept it. It's easier that way. Eventually, you arrive at a small archway made entirely of teeth. Human probably, animal possibly, symbolic definitely. Carved above it in crumbling obsidian, enter ye who still hope for options. You duck through it and emerge into a circular room that hums with fluorescent indecision. Rows of stone benches line the perimeter, each occupied by a different flavor of confusion. A Roman general arguing with an 18th century tax collector, a monk reading a Kindle, and a man who might be your future dentist. In the center, a podium. Behind it, a spirit wearing a robe stitched from scrolls, literal ones, all unspooled and gently rustling. The spirit raises one long-fingered hand. "Welcome to the Department of Post-Mortal Appeals," it says, in a voice that sounds like a fax machine yawning. You're handed a form. It glows faintly. It's written in 6 languages simultaneously. You can read all of them. You fill in your name or what feels like your name and hesitate at the box marked "Justification for Entry Without Exit Strategy." You write, "It was a dream. I thought I could wake up." The spirit reads your form. It chuckles. "A classic," it says. "We get that one at least 3 times a week." It motions to a smaller archway lined in vines that shiver when looked at. You pass through it ducking slightly and find yourself in a room full of waiting souls again. This time they're divided by return status. One side labeled pending return faith-based, the other pending return clerical error, and finally denied but still hanging around. You sit somewhere between the first and second category, unsure where you belong. A man next to you leans in. He's transparent and smells like old books. "Did you remember the eyes?" he asks. You frown. "What eyes?" He grimaces. "Oh no. Apparently, to make it back, you need 2 coins and 1 pair of eyes that still remember you. Not literal eyes. Memory eyes. Eyes of the living. If no one up there remembers your name, you fade out," he says. Not all at once. Bit by bit. You lose nouns first, then faces. Eventually, you can't even recall what sunlight felt like. You swallow. Hard. He shrugs. Happens. A clerk calls your number written in backwards letters on a card that wasn't there a moment ago. You walk to the counter where a woman with no pupils and way too many rings on her fingers stares at you. "State your intention," she says. To go back, you reply. I think she repeats, arching a translucent brow. "I was told this was temporary." She sighs. Everyone was told that, even the ones who came here with maps. She hands you a small stone. It glows faintly. "Toss this into the reflection pool. If it sinks, we start the return paperwork. If it floats, you're staying." You take the stone. It's warm, like it remembers holding other hands, like it's tired of this game, like you're led to the pool. It's not made of water. It's made of old dreams, forgotten bedtime stories. Nursery rhymes no one sings anymore. You kneel. You whisper to the stone, maybe a prayer, maybe just your name, and drop it. It hovers, not floats, not sinks. Hovers right between. Everyone goes quiet. This hasn't happened in a while, apparently. The pool ripples. A memory flashes you laughing under a tree. You burning a love letter you never sent. You at a funeral you didn't cry at because you couldn't. Then the stone dissolves. You look up. Well, says the pupilless clerk. That's ambiguous. She checks a ledger. Frowns. I'm going to need to send you to triage. You sigh, of course. She smiles sympathetically. Think of it as a second opinion. Or a third, or fourth. We've lost count. You're led away. Through a hallway that smells like burnt feathers and static electricity. Triage is a room with only one chair. One enormous, squishy, suspiciously breathing chair. You sit in it. The room darkens, and a voice deep and soft and everywhere at once asks, "Tell me, what was your greatest kindness?" You freeze. Not your biggest success, not your worst mistake. Your greatest kindness. And suddenly your whole life rolls backward through your mind like film on rewind. You pick a moment, small, private. No one saw it, but it mattered. You say it aloud. The chair exhales. The voice says acceptable. Then just before the room dissolves into stars and smoke, you hear it whisper, "You've got one more shot." You awaken, or maybe continue in a room you're fairly certain was assembled using only the pieces of dreams no one wanted. The walls pulse faintly like they're breathing. Not hard, not fast. Just enough to suggest this place is alive in the same way moss is alive or toast is technically still cooking after you remove it from the heat. You look down. Your shoes are gone. Instead, you're wearing sandals, not cute ones. Ancient, cracked, dry leather things that lace up to your ankles. They smell like old rope and wet stone. That's when it hits you. A whisper from your subconscious. A line from some mythology class you took or maybe dreamed. Don't cross into the underworld wearing leather soles. You freeze. Because you're wearing exactly that. You try to peel the sandals off. No luck. The straps tighten almost lovingly. The soles pulse faintly like they've claimed you. A notice on the wall flashes into focus. It's made of carved bone. Notice all mortal footwear will be adjusted to comply with Underworld Safety Ordinance. 7B. Management is not responsible for meltdowns, absorption, or screaming. A nearby bench offers alternative options. One sandals woven from reeds that smell like vinegar and grief. 2 bare feet. 3 a single wooden clog, carved with the phrase, "Better luck next life." You consider your choices. Then someone clears their throat. You turn, and there standing in an alcove just slightly too small for her is a woman in a tunic made of stars. Literally stars. They twinkle when she moves. Her eyes are like molten copper. "I like the leather ones," she says. "They tell me stories when you walk." You don't ask who she is. You already know the rules by now. If someone down here wants you to know their name, they'll give it to you. If they don't, you definitely shouldn't ask. She gestures for you to follow. The hallway ahead is lit by jars of glowing breath, each one pulsating in sync with a sleeping person somewhere in the living world. You pass a jar marked Benedict age 9 and another simply labeled that one guy with the guitar. "They're dreams," the woman says. "Most never make it this far." You walk quietly. Your sandals grow warmer with every step and you try not to think about what they're whispering beneath your feet. Eventually the hallway opens into a chamber carved from something older than stone. Here the floor is obsidian smooth and endless, and your reflection follows behind you a second too late. The ceiling not visible. Too much mist, but you hear flapping. Bird's wings regret. Hard to say. At the center is a stone pedestal and upon it a map. But this is no ordinary map. It moves. Rivers flow backward, mountains breathe. Cities flicker in and out of existence depending on where you stand. She steps forward and points. "That's where you're going." You squint. It's labeled only with 3 words, "Whispers come home." "What is it, you ask?" "A checkpoint," she replies. "Everyone who hopes to leave must pass through. It's where they test your tether." You raise an eyebrow. "To the living," she explains. "To memory. If no one thinks of you, no one dreams of you, no one fears you, you can't go back." You nod slowly. But she says there's a shortcut. Sort of. Of course there is. She hands you a compass. It's broken. The needle points nowhere, spins occasionally, and hums when you touch it. "You'll need to ask the gate stone." You stare at her. She shrugs. "Yes, the gate stone. It's a rock, but a very judgmental one." You pocket the compass and look back at the map. "Can I take this?" She laughs. "Sure, but it only works if you're lost." "Makes sense." As you step away from the pedestal, your sandals emit a sound that's halfway between a sigh and a warning. The floor ahead glows faintly. And then suddenly there's a sound behind you. A pop like a balloon filled with incense, and a new figure stands there. He's wearing a postal worker's uniform. His eyes are buttons. His bag is made of letters you forgot to send. He hands you an envelope. You take it. On the front, your name. Inside, nothing. Just dust. You look up confused. The mailman shrugs. It was returned, unopened. Then he vanishes. You hold the envelope for a long time before slipping it into your coat. It's heavier than it should be. The woman in stars sighs. They always come right when you're about to leave. Reminders. You nod. She hands you a key for the next gate. It only works if you knock politely and don't knock twice. He hates that. You glance down again at your feet. The sandals are now visibly pulsing. You don't like it. You ask, is there time to change them? She shakes her head. Time down here. Fair point. You step into the fog ahead. It wraps around you like a grandmother who's seen too much. Behind you, the woman whispers, hope someone up there still thinks about you. You walk on. The next few steps are oddly soft. You realize eventually you're walking on ash. Not fresh ash, ancient fossilized. Still warm, it gets into your sandals and you feel it press against your skin, like a memory you wish you could wash off. Then you arrive. The gatestone is exactly what you feared a rock, with eyes a mouth and the vibe of a grumpy librarian at the end of their shift. It blinks. Password it croaks. You hesitate. It rolls its eyes. Hint, it's always the same. You guess. Hope, it yawns. You read the plaque. You smile faintly. It sighs again. Fine. Go through. But tell the next one I want my face back. He'll know what I mean. And with that, a door-shaped crack splits the wall. It smells like pine and something else. Your childhood backyard, maybe? You step through, and everything goes silent. You know the silence isn't normal because you notice it. It's the kind of silence that carries weight, not peaceful, not empty, but full. Full of breath that isn't yours, full of eyes that haven't opened yet, full of names no one has said aloud in centuries. The path beneath your feet glows a dull, tired blue like an old computer that hasn't powered down properly. You follow it not because you want to, but because every part of you knows there's no turning back now. The hallway ahead is curved not just side to side, but somehow up and down. It feels like walking through the inside of a giant sleeping animal. The air smells like thyme and mothballs. And then, without warning, you feel it. A whisper. Right behind your ear. You spin around. No one. But the whisper comes again. I never left. It's not threatening. Not exactly. It's mournful. Like someone confessing something too late. You move forward, slowly. The hallway opens up into a chamber. Circular, quiet. Stone walls lined with floating candles, each one dripping upward. There in the center is a bench. And on the bench, a woman. She's not glowing, not flickering. She's solid. Dressed in clothes from a century that hasn't happened yet. Sneakers, a hoodie with a band name you don't recognize. She holds a snow globe in her lap. You sit beside her. She doesn't look at you, but she speaks. I've been waiting for someone who isn't real. You tilt your head. She continues. He came down here. Said he'd be right back. That was 612 years ago. You nod slowly. You're not sure what else to do. She finally turns to face you. And her eyes, you've seen them before. In a painting. In a memory. Maybe in a mirror. You're not dead, she says. Not completely. You blink. I can smell the world still clinging to you. Bread crust, ink, the warmth of someone's hand you didn't want to let go. You open your mouth to speak. She holds up a hand. Don't ruin it with words. Then she sighs. Sets the snow globe on the bench between you. Inside a miniature version of the very room you're in now. Complete with two tiny figures on the bench. You and her. You ask the question you've been avoiding since the river. Is it possible to come back for real? She smiles. Not cruelly, not hopefully, just knowingly. Sometimes she says, but you'll owe something. Or someone. You swallow. What kind of something? She shrugs. Whatever you can't afford to lose. That's when the globe begins to shake. A low hum fills the room. The air grows dense. She stands. And behind her a door appears. No frame, no handle. Just space bending inward. Your next guide's through there, she says. You ask her name. She smiles again. It's yours. You just don't remember borrowing it. And then she's gone. The snow globe remains. You pick it up. It's warm. You pocket it without thinking. Then turn toward the door. It's darker than shadow. Somehow less than black. You step through it. The sensation is immediate. Cold. Wet. You're in a cave. A lake glows faintly beside you. The walls drip with ancient condensation. The air smells like moss and mint. A canoe floats at the water's edge tied to a post, carved with tiny faces. There's someone in the boat. He's young. Maybe. Or just ageless in the way statues are. Dressed in linen that glows faintly blue like moonlight on ice. He doesn't speak. He just gestures. You step into the canoe. It rocks gently, the water doesn't move, the boat does. You glide forward, across the lake, beneath arches that echo your own heartbeat. You pass statues underwater, their eyes open. Watching, waiting, judging, maybe just remembering. Halfway across you see her, the soul, floating, or rather hovering just above the water. She's dressed in silk. Her hair floats around her like a halo. And when you lock eyes with her, it feels like pages turning in reverse. She speaks, and her voice ripples through your chest. I was promised a return. You don't answer. You can't. I walked the path. I followed the rules. I didn't eat the fruit. I didn't speak the names. She steps onto the boat as if she weighs nothing. But no one remembered me, she whispers. No one opened the door. You want to comfort her, but instead she touches your cheek, and you remember her face. In a dream, at a station, reading a letter you never wrote. She smiles, but it breaks at the edges. You still have people up there, she says. That's your difference. The boat touches shore. You step out. She doesn't follow. You turn to look at her, but she's gone. Vanished, like a breath on a cold day. You stand alone now. The lake behind you. A long tunnel ahead. Carved above it here, enter those who might still wake. You walk forward. The air grows warmer. And then you hear your own voice. From somewhere ahead. Laughing. Not present you, old you. Alive you. You run. But the tunnel grows longer. You slow. And a whisper curls around you close and cruel. They only remember you when they want to. You stop running. There's no point. The tunnel isn't getting longer, it's just refusing to end. Like a dream you keep falling through. The walls around you begin to change from stone to wood to something softer, more organic. Like the inside of a seashell that's been whispered into for centuries. And the air shifts too. Gone is the chill of underworld stone. Now it's warm, stale even. Like an attic that's kept too many memories. You reach a door. It's wooden plain with a tarnished brass handle. On the door is a plaque that reads, Hall of the Lost Viewing Room B. Underneath in much smaller text, objects in memory may be closer than they appear. You open the door. Inside is a theater. Seats made of red velvet, a dimly flickering projector, dust dancing lazily through the air. You're alone, except you're not. Because seated in the front row is you. Not just any version, a younger you. The one who still believed that all sad things were temporary and that every story had a satisfying end. They turn, look at you, and smile in that way you used to smile before you knew better. You step down the aisle and sit beside yourself. The film starts. It's your life. But only the parts that were forgotten by everyone else. There you are, age 6, singing into a spoon with no audience. There you are, 17, crying quietly behind the gym after the play no one came to see. There you are again, alone in a bookstore buying a novel you'll never finish because it felt like hope on sale. Your other self chuckles. Funny, they say. They remember our worst moments, but not these. You nod, quietly. On screen now you're older. Making coffee, talking to a friend, laughing too loudly at a joke no one else got. The light in your eyes flickers but doesn't go out. Then the film stops. A flicker. A frame freezes. Your face presents you blank. Words scrawl over the image as if written by a finger dragging through frost. Memory access suspended. Viewer has reached maximum nostalgia quota. Your younger self sighs. I hate when that happens, they say. You turn. What happens now? They shrug. Now you try to leave before they start taking more. More pieces of you. And then the room tilts. Literally. The theater begins to collapse inward. The seats folding up like petals curling into sleep. You and your younger self fall upward or downward? You can't tell. And when you land, you're somewhere new. A long hallway. Walls lined with doors. Each door marked with a year. Your birth year, your death year, your almost death year. You choose none. Instead, you move forward. The hallway opens into a garden. Yes, a garden. Lush, vibrant, almost too real. Flowers bloom in reverse. Trees inhale deeply and exhale light. A breeze rustles the air, whispering lullabies in languages that don't exist anymore. And at the center a bench. Seated there a soul. Not just any soul. Her. The one from the lake. The one who remembered your face before you remembered hers. She looks older now. Or maybe just clearer. You sit beside her. I thought you stayed behind, you say. She shrugs. I didn't, not really. I just took the long way. You both sit there watching petals fall upward into the sky. After a while, she speaks again. Do you know the rule, she asks. You shake your head. If someone alive dreams of you 3 nights in a row, she says you get a pass. You blink. Is that real? She shrugs. Real enough. You ask, has anyone dreamed of you? She smiles. Bitter soft. I used to think so. Now I think I was just haunting myself. The wind shifts. A bell rings in the distance. She stands. You're close. To what? She looks over her shoulder. The test. Then she's gone again. This time you don't try to follow. Because something else is coming. You feel it. The ground beneath you begins to pulse like a heartbeat deep and low. The trees rustle louder. And from the garden's edge, a gate rises. Not opens, rises. Formed of bone, memory, 1,000 rusted locks. Carved into it, checkpoint 3, the remembering. The locks begin to click one by one. Behind the gate, a voice speaks. Tell us why you think they'll still remember you. You freeze. The air thickens. Another lock clicks. You open your mouth. And you begin to speak. Not loudly, not confidently, but truthfully. You speak of the way you once sat quietly with a friend who had nothing left to say. You speak of the time you wrote a letter and never sent it, but meant every word. You speak of the laugh you gave away even though you didn't feel it because someone needed it more. The gate listens. The locks keep clicking until there's only one left. The final lock. And the voice asks, but do you remember them? And that's the real question, isn't it? You close your eyes. You search. Faces rise. Some you lost. Some you let go. Some you never really knew. And in that quiet moment you whisper a name. Just one. The name of the person who held you once long ago and didn't ask you to be better. Just asked you to be. The last lock clicks. And the gate opens. You step through. And everything feels lighter. The gate closes behind you without a sound. It's not the slamming kind of gate, it's the soft click of something that won't open again. At least not for you. At least not in the same way. What's ahead is less. Less wall, less sound, less everything. You're in a room or maybe a void dressed up to look like one. The floor is soft like moss made of memory foam. The air smells like the inside of a shoebox where old photographs have been stored too long. There's a figure waiting. Not sitting, not standing, just existing exactly where it wants to be. You approach slowly. It's a man, or was, or will be. Time's doing weird things here. He's wearing a suit modern neat, but just a little off. The lapels fold inward like origami. The tie is made of static. His shoes click faintly even though he's not moving. He turns to you, eyes dark and heavy as if they've seen every failed attempt to leave this place. You made it farther than most, he says. His voice is sharp velvet, gentle but designed to cut if it needs to. I think I'm here for the test, you say. He smiles. Oh no, that was the test. You blink. What? The gate? The garden? The name you remembered? That was it. You exhale. A part of you wants to collapse. Then, what is this? He spreads his arms wide, revealing a horizon where there wasn't one a moment ago. A wide, flat plain made of shifting mist and old lullabies. This, he says, is the waiting. You pause. Waiting for what? He turns back toward you. For someone to choose you. You feel the question rise in your chest. Who would choose me? He reads it on your face. Maybe someone alive, he says. A dreamer, a mourner, a mother, a lover, a friend. You nod, and if no one does, he shrugs. Then you keep waiting, or you walk forward, or you fade. You look toward the horizon. The path ahead isn't made of stone or dirt or even air. It's made of sound, echoes, footsteps from others who came before you. Some running, some limping, all of them, leaving something behind. You take a step. The sound it makes isn't your footfall. It's your voice from a time you were laughing so hard your ribs hurt. The second step, the sound of your mother calling your name back, when it still had all its syllables. The third, silence, but comforting, like when someone sits beside you and says nothing because they understand. You keep walking, and then you see them. Souls. Just shapes at first flickering like forgotten songs. One wears a baker's apron. Another clutches a violin made of glass. One younger than they should be carries a balloon that never pops. They don't speak, but they smile, because they've been here too. The man in the suit calls from behind you. Be careful. Memory is currency here. You spend too much and you forget your way back. You glance over your shoulder. What happens if I forget? He lifts a hand, opens his palm. A moth flies out made entirely of names you no longer know how to pronounce. That, you nod. Fair enough. You walk on. Then from somewhere else a voice cuts through the quiet. Do you remember your promise? You stop. Not because you recognize the voice, but because something in your chest does. You did make a promise. A long time ago. To someone. To get back. To return. And suddenly, the landscape shifts again. You're standing before a river. Not the one from the beginning. This one is narrower, brighter, quieter. It smells like tea and sorrow and rain on concrete. On the other side, a house. A simple house, porch, swing, a single lamp glowing faintly in the window. You know that house. You've dreamed it. Drawn it. Described it once to someone who said, that sounds like peace. A voice beside you now, gentle, dry. Most people get here, it says. Few remember why. You look, an old man. Dressed in rags that shimmer like broken glass. He's holding a stick, or maybe it's a fishing rod, or maybe it's a pen. You can't tell anymore. Do I cross, you ask? He shrugs. That depends. What are you willing to leave behind? You hesitate. He nods. That's the price of going back. You don't get to keep everything. You ask, what do I lose? And he says the part that wanted to stay. You stare across the water. You see someone waiting. Not clearly. Just an outline. But you feel it pulling at you. Hope. Not the dramatic kind, not fireworks. Just the kind that whispers, try again. You look at the man. Can I choose what I give up? He shakes his head. No one can. And then he steps aside. A canoe waits. No ferryman this time. Just you. And one oar. You climb in. You paddle. Each stroke takes something with it. The sound of your father's voice. The taste of mint on a winter's morning. A lullaby you haven't sung in decades. But the house gets closer. The light in the window grows warmer. And when you reach the other side, you stand. You breathe. You look down at your hands. They're shaking. Because you're real again. Mostly. Enough! And somewhere, someone wakes up gasping because they saw you in their dream. You don't knock on the door. You just know it's not that kind of house. It's the kind where you walk in quietly, let the screen door creak behind you, and wipe your feet out of instinct, even if you're barefoot. Inside, the air is thick with familiarity. Warm wood. Faint citrus. A trace of something baking that was never finished. You feel for just a moment like you've returned to something, but the shape of it is slightly off, like a dream built from rearranged memories. The living room is empty, but the cushions still carry the impressions of people who once waited there. The clock ticks, but the hands move in tiny circles, unsure of what time should be doing. There's a table in the center, and on the table 3 objects. A teacup filled with sand. A Polaroid of a moment that never happened but should have. And a candle, unlit, melting anyway. You move toward them. A voice quiet and crackling like a fire that doesn't want to die floats in behind you. You don't remember the terms. You turn. A man. Know a presence in the shape of one. He's wearing the clothes of someone who used to matter, a judge or a librarian or a grandfather who gave better advice than he lived. His eyes are dark, not cruel, just ancient. You came back, he says, but the body doesn't remember how. You sit slowly at the table. What do I do? He gestures toward the objects. You choose. You glance at each. The teacup of sand soft warm. When you touch it, you feel sleep press against your shoulders. Forget, the man says. Choose this and you'll never know this place existed. You'll live, and you'll be happy, but you won't be you anymore. Just someone close. You look at the photo. It shows a version of you smiling surrounded by people you never met. But they feel real. In the photo, you're wearing the color you always told yourself you'd never pull off. You look complete. Live that life, he says, but only in the dreams of others. You'll walk their edges always close, never solid. Then the candle. Still dripping even though it burns with no flame. He tilts his head. Carry the memory. All of it. You'll wake up, but you'll never be the same. You'll remember the river, the names, the voices, and they'll follow you. You sit back. He smiles soft and sad. There is no correct choice, only the one you can live with. You ask which one would you choose. He doesn't answer. He just places a 4th object on the table. A key. You blink. It wasn't there before. It wasn't supposed to be there. The man raises an eyebrow. Someone remembered you harder than we expected. You feel it. A ripple. Like a tug on your sleeve from far, far away. A child's voice, maybe. Calling your name. Or whispering it into a pillow. Or maybe just thinking it with the kind of pure focus only the grieving possess. You reach for the key. The man nods. Interesting. You hold it. It glows. Not with light, but with warmth. And the room begins to shake, softly at first like an exhale. Then the windows crack. The air distorts. The house shifts. Not crumbles, not falls. It changes. The wood panels turn to fog. The walls melt into sound. The door becomes a mouth whispering lullabies in reverse. The man stands. You'll wake up now. You ask, will I remember? He shrugs. Enough. And then he's gone. No dramatic exit, no vanishing flash, just absence. You stand in what used to be the house. Now it's only memory, only breath. You close your eyes, and the world spins. When it stops, you're kneeling, grass beneath you, real grass, wet with dew. A bird calls. The sky above you is painfully, achingly blue. You blink. Your throat is dry. You taste salt, from tears or sweat or something older. You stand. Your legs ache. You look at your hands. They're dirty, scraped, alive. There's a weight in your pocket. You reach in. A key. Just a normal key. No glow. No warmth. Just metal. You clutch it tight. In the distance, someone is calling a name. Not yours. Not yet. But the sound of it wraps around your bones like a promise. You take a breath and step forward. Your sandals are gone. Your shoes are new. And your shadow, long, soft, and unfamiliar, stretches ahead of you like it's searching for the rest of your story. You follow your shadow. Not because it knows the way, but because it's the only thing that still seems sure of anything. Around you, the world stirs. Leaves rustle. The sky breathes. A wind passes over your skin and whispers your name, in a voice just familiar enough to make you pause. You're back supposedly, but nothing feels quite the same. The road ahead is paved, cracked in some places, dusted with the kind of gravel that remembers every boot print. You walk with the strange awareness that each step is being recorded not by cameras or people, but by time itself, which now seems very interested in what you're going to do next. Eventually you reach a crossroads. 4 signs, all blank. You sit on a bench nearby. It's painted green, peeling just enough to suggest history, but not decay. A woman is already sitting there. You didn't see her before, but she's been here. You feel that. She turns slowly. Her eyes are gray. Not clouded, just distant like they're busy watching somewhere else. You made it, she says. You nod. She gestures to the signs. Most don't know where to go after. You look again. Still blank. Do they ever show anything? Sometimes she says. But only if you stop looking for answers and start remembering why you asked. You wait, quiet, listening. And slowly, almost shyly, one of the signs changes. Just one word. Visit. You blink. The woman nods. That's what they need, she says. Not answers. Just to feel that someone who left might still arrive. You look at the other signs. Still blank. But the path toward visit feels warmer. You start walking. The air changes as you go. You pass a church, empty except for candles burning even though no one's home. You pass a playground where wind alone pushes the swings. You pass a mirror propped against a tree, and for just a moment the reflection shows not you, but all the people who once loved you and still might. And then you reach it. A house. Not the one from the garden. This is smaller, earthbound, familiar. You don't knock. You open the door. Inside someone is weeping. Softly. Carefully. Like they're afraid their sadness will wake someone else. You follow the sound. It leads you to a room where a man older than you remember is sitting with his head in his hands. Beside him a photo. Of you. Not how you are now, but how he last saw you. He hasn't moved on. Not really. You reach out. Instinct. Habit. Hope. Your hand passes through his shoulder. But he lifts his head. Looks around. And whispers your name. You see it happen. The hair on his arms rise. His breath catches. His eyes glisten, not from tears, but from knowing. He can't see you, but he feels you. And that's enough. You sit with him. You listen to the things he says to no one. The apologies. The what-ifs. The half-laughed memories. And though you say nothing, you leave something behind. Not a sign, not a symbol, not a miracle. Just presence. That old friend. That quiet promise. That strange weight of being remembered. When you leave, the door closes on its own. And the man smiles just barely as though a burden has finally exhaled. You find yourself back on the path. Another sign has appeared. Repay. You walk and find a woman in a hospital bed. Sleeping. A nurse passes through the room humming something tuneless. You know this woman. Or rather, she knows you. From childhood, from stories, from warnings. She's the one who lit candles for you every year on the same day. You step beside her. She twitches, whispers. Still waiting. So you stay. 1 minute, then 10. An hour passes. And then her hand reaches out. Eyes still closed. Palm open. You place yours there. And though your fingers pass through, she sighs in her sleep. Peacefully. A machine near the bed flickers. A line that had been jagged becomes smooth. Steady. When you leave, another sign is waiting. This one says, reclaim. You hesitate. You ask the air, what do I reclaim? And the air answers, the parts of you left behind. And so the journey begins again. You walk to find the songs you never sang, the words you never wrote, the faces you turned from, the love you gave but didn't receive. Each stop you gather pieces, a laugh you lost at 13, the courage you dropped in your 20s, the faith that dissolved one quiet Tuesday morning. All of it, waiting for you to come back, not to be whole, but to be honest. And finally, the last sign, return. You stop. You look back. The paths you've walked are no longer there. Only light, only sound, only memory. You take a deep breath and step forward into the place where the living wait for signs and the dead wait for dreams. You don't feel the moment you cross back into the living world. There's no crash of thunder, no flash of light, no triumphant music or sudden gasp. It's gentler than that. It's the creak of an old bed frame as someone stirs after a heavy sleep. The rustle of bed sheets warmed by a body that almost forgot it had bones. The faint sting of breath as it re-enters lungs not used in far too long. You're awake, but you're not back. Not entirely. You're in a hospital bed. You know this not because you see it. Your vision is blurry, your eyelids sluggish, but because you feel the IV needle in your arm. You hear the distant beep of machines and the too clean smell of sanitizer trying to cover up worry. Someone is crying nearby. Quietly, respectfully, as if afraid their grief might reverse whatever miracle is unfolding. You want to say something, but your mouth is dry. Instead, your hand moves, just a little. Enough. The crying stops. Then a voice, warm, terrified, grateful. Oh my God, you're here. You're back. It's someone you once thought would forget you, but didn't. They kept your photo on their fridge. They whispered your name into their pillow at night when no one else was listening. They lit a candle on your birthday, not knowing why. And when you disappeared, they didn't fill the silence with explanations. They left space for you. You blink slowly. The ceiling lights above you are too bright. You're not used to light anymore. Then another voice, this one clipped and clinical. She's stabilizing. Keep talking to her. That's good. That's very good. Your body remembers pain, hunger, gravity. But beneath all that, something deeper. You remember. Not just this world. The other one. The boat, the garden, the woman made of stars. The house. The bench where you sat with your younger self. The key in your pocket. You turn your head weakly. There it is on the bedside table. A single silver key. Normal. Unremarkable. But you know what it cost. And what it means. You close your eyes. Behind them scenes flicker. Places that shouldn't exist. And 3 words echo gently in your mind. Not yet done. You drift in and out over the next few days. Doctors murmur. Friends visit. A nurse leaves the television on low volume, filling the room with the soft murmur of news weather and late-night sitcoms that feel like ghosts from a different life. At night you dream. But they're not dreams anymore. They're check-ins. You visit the garden. Sit again on the bench. This time no one's there, but the air is still warm. You pass the gate stone, now cracked and silent. You glimpse the girl in the lake watching you with an expression you now understand. Hope deferred. In one dream, you find yourself back in the Hall of Regrets. This time you leave a jar behind. Not glowing, not heavy. Just sealed. Labeled, "The moment I stopped believing I mattered." You place it gently on a shelf and walk away lighter. When you wake, the key is still there. Waiting. Eventually you leave the hospital. The world is noisier than you remember. Colors are sharper, smells more aggressive. Every conversation feels like a thunderstorm. But you adapt. Slowly. Quietly. You visit people you forgot you loved. You write letters you don't send but mean. You smile at strangers who remind you of shadows you once feared. And every now and then in the quiet hours just before dawn, you take the key out of its drawer and hold it. You don't use it. Not yet. Because you're not done visiting. Not done repaying the hustle. Not done reclaiming. You've been given a round-trip ticket. But the return, it's not just about leaving. It's about carrying, and you carry them all now. The ones who couldn't make it back. The ones waiting for someone to say their name again. The ones who offered their stories in whispers and riddles and riddled silence. You remember them. You won't forget. And because of that, you're not really alone. Not ever again. The The seasons don't feel quite the same after you return. Rain lingers longer on your skin like it's checking to make sure you're real. Wind plays with your sleeves in ways that feel intentional. Like something in the air is trying to remind you of where you've been. You learn to nod at it. Quietly, privately, you don't tell anyone why. People notice changes in you. They say you're quieter, gentler, that you pause mid-sentence as if listening for something they can't hear. They say you look at old things like they're new. And you do. Because now everything is a message. A doorknob feels like a promise. A lamp's hum reminds you of a boat ride over still water. The smell of rosemary in a kitchen makes you flinch, but not in fear, in memory. You work a job, pay bills, eat breakfast, laugh at jokes. You're functional, but you're also haunted. Not by ghosts, by presence. You start noticing others like you. A man on the subway who touches his pocket every few minutes as if something might disappear. A woman in the library who reads the last page of every book first, not out of impatience, but out of fear she won't reach the end. A child who stares at empty benches like she's waiting for someone only she can see. You don't speak to them, but you see them, and that's enough. Until one day you get a letter. No return address, no stamp. Just your name written in handwriting that shifts when you aren't looking. Inside one sentence. Do you still remember the ones who don't? It shakes you. You hold it for an hour. The ink smudges slightly where your thumb lingers. You think about the girl in the garden. The old man at the shore. The gatestone that asked for a password you didn't know until you needed it. You think about your younger self sitting beside you in that impossible theater, smiling like they hadn't yet learned how hard life could get. You whisper aloud yes, and just like that, the room cools. The lights flicker. The key on your nightstand turns itself half a click. It's subtle, but it's a sign. You're still tethered, still available, still useful. You place the letter in a drawer beside the key. You don't tell anyone, but you begin to prepare. Because some nights now you feel it. That pull. A distant humming like a current tugging at your ribs. It doesn't come often. But when it does, you know it means someone's looking for a way back. And only those who have walked the path can show it to them. You begin walking more. Not with purpose, with awareness. Through graveyards, libraries, train stations, bus stops that haven't had service in decades. You carry small things in your coat. A pebble from the old path, a matchstick, a piece of string tied 3 times. You don't know why, but one day you will. Because that's how it works now. Everything forgotten has a time to return. Every silence waits to be broken. Every name unspoken grows louder in the right ears. And every return is a cycle that begins not with death, but with memory. You wake up one morning to find the key is gone. In its place, a new envelope. This one has your name and something else at time. You set the letter down, take a breath, and smile. Because you understand now, coming back was never the end of the journey. It was just a beginning you were finally ready for. The time written on the envelope is not when it starts. It's when you start to feel it. That slow warming beneath your ribs. The subtle tingling at your fingertips. The way the shadows stretch just a little too far around your feet in the late afternoon light. You carry the envelope with you everywhere unopened. Not out of fear, out of respect. Whatever is inside isn't just a message. It's a moment. And moments you've learned are sacred. You begin to notice clocks behaving oddly around you. Some slow down when you look directly at them. Others skip ahead by minutes when you're lost in thought. Your wristwatch spins backwards at night but is always correct by morning. Time, it seems, remembers you now. And it's polite enough to wait. You start preparing, but not in the usual ways. You don't pack a bag. You don't say goodbye. You remember. You remember people. The ones you let go. The ones you left behind. The ones you couldn't save. You start writing their names in a notebook. Not because you think it's required, but because it feels right. Some names you write without hesitation. Others take hours to recall, buried under guilt, shame, or just the sheer weight of forgetting. But as you write, you feel lighter. Like memory itself is exhaling. And then at exactly the time listed on the envelope, you find yourself at a door. You don't remember how you got there. But the key you swear it was gone is in your hand again. Worn, familiar, faithful. The door's nothing special. Peeling white paint, a brass knob, a welcome mat that says absolutely nothing. But you know where it leads. And this time you're not afraid. You unlock it. On the other side, a hallway. Short, narrow, but lined with photos of you. Except not always you. You as remembered. In one frame, you're taller. In another, your eyes are the wrong color. In one, you're smiling in a way you never could have when you were alive. In another, you look tired but loved. They're versions of you, the ones that linger in memory, in dreams, in guilt. You touch one of the frames, it's warm. Soft music plays ahead. Not from a radio, not from a speaker. It comes from the walls. It's the kind of song someone would hum while cleaning the house, the kind that sticks in your head for years and then returns one day out of nowhere, pulling tears from your eyes before you even know why. You follow it. And the hallway opens into a room that's not a room. It's a memory, but not yours. Someone else's. A child sitting cross-legged on a rug, playing with blocks. One of them has your name carved into it. They don't know you. Not really. But someone told them a story about you once. And they believed it. That belief is the tether. And you feel it pull. The room shifts. Now you're on a porch. A woman is telling a story, your story. She gets the details wrong, but the feeling is right. She makes you kinder than you were, braver than you felt, more gentle than you ever allowed yourself to be. You want to correct her, but then you realize this is what saves you. Not facts, not biography, but memory filtered through love. You turn, and there it is. The lake. Not the lake, but one like it. The water is still. Too still. And on the far side you see shadows moving. Souls. Wandering. Looking. Hoping. You know what's next. You step into the water. It's warm. You begin walking. Not across. Down. The surface closes behind you, and the world goes quiet, but not empty. Because now, you're the guide. The silence underwater isn't the kind that drowns you. It holds you like a hush before a bedtime story. Like the pause before someone says your name with care. You don't need to breathe here. Your lungs don't ask. Your body doesn't complain. Because this isn't about survival anymore. It's about presence. Purpose. You drift downward through memory-dense water. It's thick, not with weight, but with meaning. Every ripple carries a whisper. Some you recognize. I hope they're okay. I wish I'd said goodbye. I think I saw them in my dream last night. Others are from strangers who don't even know they're calling. You pass through them like smoke through morning light, and the water impossibly begins to brighten. Shapes form. Figures. Souls. All waiting. Some sitting cross-legged on the lake bed, gazing up as if hoping to be remembered. Some pacing anxious. Some curled into themselves like half-formed thoughts. They turn when they see you. They feel you. Because you're different. You're not a memory. You're a messenger. A returnee, a key-bearer, a maybe miracle. One of them, a boy with feathers tucked in his sleeves, approaches first. Do I still count? He asks. You don't answer. You place a hand on his shoulder. And suddenly he lifts. Slowly, gently. Like breath-finding form. He rises through the water, his shape becoming clearer. Lighter. Until he disappears. You know what that means. He's waking up in someone's dream. Being remembered. You move through them one by one. A woman with eyes full of regrets she never caused. A man who still clutches a letter he never sent. A girl who died before she learned her own name. You don't judge. You don't speak. You witness. And witnessing is enough. Sometimes, that's all someone needs to return. But not all can rise. Not yet. Some are too heavy with forgetting. Some are too tangled in the roots of lives never lived. Some just aren't ready. You sit with them, one at a time. Tell them stories, their stories, your story. You become the campfire in the fog. The map made of murmurs. The ferryman who doesn't ask for coins. You learn something unexpected. You're not here to bring them back. You're here to remind them that they can choose. And choice that ancient spark is all it takes to start waking. You stay until the water changes. The brightness dims. The call returns. You feel it. Someone up there is dreaming of you again. Your time here, this visit is ending. You nod to those who remain. You're not forgotten, you whisper. Not really. For once they believe it. You rise. Up past the drift of unspoken words. Up through the shimmering hush. Up to the surface that isn't a surface, but a threshold. And when you break through, you're not in bed. You're not in a hospital. You're not in any place the living would recognize. You're in a field, dawn-colored, covered in flowers that bloom only in memory. And seated on a stone nearby is the man in the suit. The one from before. Still here. Still watching. You came back, he says. You smile. So did you. He shrugs. Someone's got to manage the paperwork. You laugh. And for the first time since the boat ride, it feels real. He stands. Hands you something. Not a key this time. A coin. Worn. Familiar. Warm. You won't need this, he says, unless you forget why you left. You pocket it anyway. Habit. Hope. Then he gestures to the edge of the field. A door waits there. Plain, wooden, unlabeled. You both know what it means. I'll see you again, you ask. He nods. When someone needs you. And with that, you walk to the door. It opens with the sound of a name being spoken softly after too long. You step through and find yourself home. But not quite the one you left. This world is brighter around the edges. Softer in the places that used to be hard. People look at you differently now. Like they almost remember something. And maybe they do. You live quietly, but fully. You laugh. You cook. You pause to watch the wind move through trees. And when someone asks where you've been, you just smile and say, I got a little lost, but someone remembered me. Years pass. You're not counting them, but you feel them. Not in your bones, which still work fine on most days. Not in your calendar, which you stopped updating after realizing it never seemed to match your actual life. You feel time in other ways now. In the way your dreams shift, in how certain songs come back to you like old friends. In how people, strangers, neighbors, even distant relatives start reaching out with stories. Do you believe in deja vu, they ask. I had this dream. You were in it. I don't know why, but I thought of you when I woke up. You listen. You always listen. Because, you know, the tether still holds. And the world, it needs people who remember. You don't talk much about where you went. Only that you came back. And for some, that's enough. But not for everyone. Because eventually, someone finds you. A child. Small, curious, quiet, but observant. They knock on your door one gray afternoon and stare at you like you're something out of a storybook. And then they ask, can you show me where the doors are? Just like that. You sit them down. Make tea. Not because they need it, because you do. And as the steam curls upwards, you ask, why do you want to know? They look at you with old eyes. I think I'm already between things they say. You nod, because, you know, that feeling. That sense that you don't quite belong in either world. That the rules are being made up and you somehow skip the page where they explained how to be. You tell them stories, not all at once, not in order, just enough. You tell them about the boat and the stairs made of bones and the Sphinx who asked trivia instead of riddles. You tell them about the Hall of Regrets and how you once tripped on someone else's memory. You tell them about the gatestone, the mirrors, the coin that wasn't real but always mattered. And they listen like you once did. Like someone thirsty for truth they've already tasted. Eventually they say, I think I've seen that lake. You smile. Then you do something you haven't done in years. You give them the coin. Not yours. Yours stayed with you. This one you made. From memory, from presence, from your witnessing. It's real now. Real enough anyway. You place it in their palm. It's not for payment, you tell them. It's for remembering. They nod. Then they ask, will I forget you? And that's the question you've been waiting for. You lean forward gently, tap the coin in their hand. Only if you choose to. They sit with that for a long time. And when they leave, they don't say goodbye. They say, I'll find you again. And you believe them. Because now you've seen what happens when someone walks the path with help. And you know, there's always someone else coming. Another soul trying to find the way back. Another story waiting to be remembered. Another voice at the edge of sleep whispering, are you still there? And you will be. Maybe not as a person. Maybe not even with a name. But as the warm wind that passes through a forgotten window. As the spark that flares when someone picks up a key they didn't know they'd been holding all along. As the dream that feels so real they wake up with tears and a smile and no idea why. You will be there. Because return isn't a place. It's a promise. It's a long time before you return to the water. Not because you couldn't. Because you didn't need to. You learned something important while walking among the living. Most souls don't need to be pulled back. They need to be remembered forward. You see it all the time now in the way someone pauses at a bench and leaves space beside them just in case. In the way a song plays on the radio and someone whispers, this was theirs. In the flicker of a candlelit photo, not out of grief but recognition. That's the real gate, isn't it? The one we cross when memory becomes presence. But still, one day you feel it. A call not from the world of the living, but the one beneath it. Soft, gentle, curious. Like something asking, do you remember us? So you go. You don't walk or drive or drift. You decide. And that's all it takes now. You appear on the bank of the river. It's quieter than before, still, but not dead. The boat is there, but it's smaller now. And it's waiting for you. Sharon isn't in it, because you don't need him anymore. You step in, and the boat moves. Not across the river this time. Along it. Like you're coasting the border between two kinds of knowing. You pass the gate again. The one with the teeth and the warnings. You pass the office with the paper stitching clerk. You pass the field of doors, the hallway of wrong clocks, the lake of never dreams, and none of them stop you. Because you're not visiting anymore. You're returning. But not as the same soul who arrived here confused coin in hand and fear in every step. Now you arrive with a ledger of names you've kept safe, with stories you've carried, with echoes you've turned into lullabies. The underworld remembers you differently now. Not as someone who escaped, as someone who came back for others. At the dock, someone waits. You recognize them? It's not their face, it's the feeling. The one who asked if you'd forget. The one you sat beside in silence. They smile. You found your way back. You shrug. We always do, eventually. They nod toward the dark. There's someone trapped. No one's heard their name in years, but they're still whispering. You offer your hand. They take it, and together you walk. Not downward, not upward, but inward, through a doorway made of breath. Into a chamber that isn't a place but a memory someone tried very hard to bury. It smells like broken crayons and thunder and pages torn from books before they were read. And in the center, a child, curled up, eyes wide, terrified. I don't know who I am anymore, they say. You sit beside them. You speak no names. You don't rush. You simply begin telling them a story. About a boat. About a whisper. About a journey that started with forgetting and ended with being found. And as you speak, their hands uncurl. Their breath deepens. And a tiny light flickers just above their head. A name. Faint, incomplete, but true. You don't tell them it's theirs. They figure it out. And when they do, the whole chamber breathes. Walls dissolve. Ceiling evaporates. And the three of you, the child, your companion, and yourself rise. Not like ghosts, like stories being told again after far too long. At the surface, the river is calm. The moon is full. You part ways with a nod. No farewells. No fanfare. Because now you understand, you are the ferryman. Not just between death and life. Between fear and hope. Between silence and song. Between the moment someone is forgotten and the moment someone is found again. You wake up the next morning, back in your room. There's a feather on your pillow. It's not from any bird, you know. You don't question it. You place it beside the key, the coin, the letter, and you whisper, I'm still here. Because you are. You always will be. You start dreaming with intention. Not the accidental kind of dream, the sort that happens when your brain tumbles through memory and stress like laundry in a too small machine. No, now you drift with purpose. You close your eyes at night, and the underworld becomes less a place and more a practice. Not something separate. Not somewhere else. But a layer just beneath the waking world. You fall asleep like opening a drawer, and inside a dozen stories waiting to be remembered. Tonight you arrive in a hallway that smells like wood smoke and ink. The floor is tiled with questions no one has asked yet. The walls breathe like sleeping lungs, waiting outside a door line of souls. All quiet. All clutching papers, journals, drawings, songs, scraps of what made them once feel alive. You join them. Not at the front, not at the back, just where you need to be. When it's your turn, the door opens into a vast, candlelit archive. Shelves stretch higher than sky. Not alphabetized, not ordered by time. They're organized by weight. The heavier the soul story, the lower it sits. The lighter it became before returning, the higher it floats. You recognize many. There's the girl from the lake. Her story is now on the second shelf, no longer buried under sorrow. There's the Gatestone's entry titled, Things That Once Asked for Permission. There's even a shelf for you. You run your fingers along the spine of your book. No title, but the pages pulse faintly, still being written. You add a new one. A blank page. You set it gently between entries. It hums, and the shelf glows just enough to make the one above it flicker too. You smile. Then someone behind you speaks, a voice trembling like wind through reeds. Do I get one too? You turn. A woman older than memory, wrapped in silence. Her story sits heavy in her arms, unread, unopened, unacknowledged. You step forward and say, of course. And with that, a shelf forms beside you. Just appears, because presence creates space. You help her place the book, and as her hands let go, you see it. The story starts to float. Not far, just a little. Enough to lift her head. Enough to make her sigh. That's all she needed. Not to rise, not to leave, not even to be saved. Just to know that someone held her story long enough for it to have shape. You stay until everyone has a shelf. And even longer after they forget you're there. You become part of the room. A soft step. A page turned. A whisper from one candle to the next. When you wake, your pillow is damp. Not with tears, with ink. Your fingers are stained from writing someone else's story. You smile. Because that's what it means now. To return. To stay returned. Not to demand the spotlight, but to carry the candlelight forward, so that even the smallest souls can find their page someday, and be reminded they happened. There's a rhythm to it now. You live by day and return by night. Each evening becomes a bridge laid gently between your heartbeat and the pulse of the forgotten. You go back not with fear, but with a kind of sacred fatigue, like a librarian returning home to dust the shelves no one visits anymore. And the souls, they know you now. Not by name, not by face, but by presence. By the quiet weight of someone who does not ask for anything, just listens and remembers and remains. Tonight, the journey begins differently. There is no hallway, no lake, no archive. Only a door, standing on its own surrounded by sky. You open it without knocking. Inside a room full of clocks. Not ticking, not broken, just waiting. Each one is tied to a soul who left unfinished. You walk slowly between them. Reading labels. Didn't say I love you back. Tried but too late. Didn't know they were waiting. Wrote it but never sent it. You don't judge. You don't reach. But one clock starts ticking as you pass. A soft, gentle tick. Not loud enough to wake the world. Just enough to tell you. Someone's ready. You follow the sound. It leads to a quiet room shaped like a memory you almost forgot. A bedroom. Dim. Books on the shelf. A coat still hanging by the door. A figure lies beneath a blanket. Young. Too young. Eyes closed. Hands clutched around something invisible. You kneel beside them. They murmur in their sleep. A name? Yours. Maybe. Maybe someone else's. You don't correct them. Instead, you whisper, "It's okay, I've got time now." And the room exhales. The blanket settles. The light shifts. And the clock stops. Not because they're gone. Because they're at rest. You leave the room and find yourself somewhere new. A train station with no trains. Just benches and maps and windows that look out over possibility. Souls sit quietly. Reading. Resting. Some looking up when you pass. You nod. They nod back. You ask one, "Where are you going?" They shrug. "Nowhere. I'm just waiting to be remembered." You sit with them. Pull out a pen. Begin to write. Their story. Not in full. Not all at once. Just the part that brings breath back to their name. They smile. "You made me sound better than I was." You smile back. That's the point. When you finish the page, lifts from your hand. Floats upward. Turns to a star. Not metaphorically. Literally. You both watch it rise. You stay until they fade into the light of it. Then you move on. And there's always someone else. Tonight it's a soldier who never made it home. A baker who left behind one perfect recipe no one ever recreated. A child who drew stars on a ceiling no one ever looked up at again. Each one becomes a story. Each story becomes a page. Each page becomes a light. You're filling the sky now. One soul at a time. And the strange thing, you don't get tired. Because this is what you were meant to do. Not live forever. Not cheat death. But prove that remembering, deep intentional remembering, is a kind of resurrection. You wake slowly this time. It's raining. Soft. Steady. You walk to the window and see a neighbor staring at the sky. They don't say anything. But you know what they're thinking. That one. That star. It feels like someone I lost. And you smile. Because they haven't lost them completely. Not anymore. Because you were there. You are there. In the ink. In the pause. In the way silence now holds shape. You begin to carry a notebook. It's not ornate, not leather-bound or gold-edged. It's the kind you'd buy from a corner shop. Soft cover, slightly frayed. The pages bend when the wind thinks too hard. But it's the most sacred thing you own. You don't write in it the way most people do. No agendas, no goals, no dear diary. You write names, only first names. Sometimes not even full ones, just syllables, nicknames the way someone was once called across a playground or whispered at midnight. You filled 20 notebooks already. You never reread them. That's not the point. The point is they're recorded, acknowledged, spoken into existence one more time. Because the moment a name is said, a tether tightens. And that's what you are now. A weaver of tethers. Tonight when you fall asleep, you're taken somewhere. Stranger. Not one of the usual thresholds. It's a dining room. Long table. Endless. Candles burning, but there's no wax. Plates of food all untouched. At each seat, a person. Alive, dead, dreaming. They're all in different states of remembering. Some are staring at empty chairs across from them. Some are waiting for their glass to be filled, unaware they're holding the pitcher. And at the head of the table, an empty chair. It's yours. You sit. And everyone turns to you. Someone asks, "What happens if no one ever says our name again?" The silence that follows isn't heavy. It's expectant. And so you speak with, "Then I will write it." If no one remembers you, I will. If your story never gets told, I will carry it in my pocket. And if one day even I am forgotten, then may the stars burn your shape into the night, and let the light itself say, "You were here." No one claps, but the room grows warmer. The candles flicker taller, the food looks fresher, the wine shimmers like memory turns sweet. And then they speak, not all at once, not loudly, but one by one each soul at the table tells their story. A kindness never repaid, a goodbye never said, a secret never shared. You listen, you nod. And when they're done, they leave their story behind in front of their plate as if placing a folded napkin on a tombstone. You stay until the table is empty again. Then you rise. The chair at the head pushes itself in, the candles dim, and you walk into the hallway of dreams once more. Only this time you feel seen. There's no fog, no riddles. Only door after door, each labeled with a verb. Heal. Witness. Stay. Begin. Return. Call. That one stops you. Call. You open it. Inside is a room filled with phones. Old rotary models, wall-mounted ones with coiled cords, flickering screen displays, and some that just look like bones shaped into speakers. Each one rings. Each one waits. You answer one. A child's voice. I had a bad dream. There was a boat. I think I was on it. You speak gently. You got off the boat, remember? You're safe now. They exhale. I woke up crying, but I'm okay now. You smile. Good. That means the tether held. You hang up. The phone melts into light. You answer another. An old man. I think I left something behind. You say you didn't. You brought everything that mattered. A pause. Then okay, thank you. You answer call after call. Each one different. Each one familiar. Each one a voice reaching through the veil hoping someone's still listening. You are. Because you've become the operator now. The line that never disconnects. The static that carries love across dimensions. You stay until the last phone falls silent. Then you return. To the bench. To the porch. To the place in your dream that always waits no matter how much time has passed. And there on the table beside your seat is your notebook. Open. Blank page ready. A pen rests on top. The ink inside it, made from every name you've ever remembered. You pick it up, you write one more name, one more tether, one more light. And then you close the book. You rest your hand on the cover and whisper, I'm still here. And from somewhere far below, or maybe far above, 100 forgotten voices whisper back, we know. The world begins to tilt. Not in the way that makes you stumble, in the way that makes you notice. That the shadows under trees look like letters. That reflections in puddles linger half a second too long. That children sometimes pause mid-play and look right at you as if remembering something you haven't said yet. You don't tell anyone what you're doing. Because how do you explain that you now live between pulses of time? That while others sleep, you walk the corridors of memory and sorrow with a lantern made of names. And the lantern, it's getting brighter. Not because the weight is lifting, because the weight is shared. There are others now, others like you. You find them in quiet places. In cafes where the background music only plays songs from forgotten decades. In museums where visitors weep in front of paintings no one else notices. In hospital waiting rooms where the coffee tastes like patience. You know them by the way they touch door handles as if expecting the wood to whisper back. By the way they pause mid-conversation. Eyes glazed not from distraction but from receiving. They carry books, coins, bits of string. You nod at each other. No greetings. Just recognition. One day someone finds you again. Not a child this time. Not a voice through the fog. An old woman. She doesn't ask questions. She hands you a mirror. It's old. Cracked. But the crack looks familiar. You look inside. At first it's your face. Then it's the faces. All of them. The ones you helped. The ones who didn't make it. The ones who never left the waiting room. The ones who made it out but forgot who they were. They're all there, flickering behind your eyes, part of you now. You lower the mirror. The old woman is gone. But she left a note behind. The mirror remembers even when we forget. You tuck it into your notebook, which is nearly full. Not just of names now, but of stories, short ones, strange ones. The man who gave his name to the wind so his lover wouldn't forget it. The girl who painted stars on her ceiling and mapped her way back with each one. The ferryman who rode himself into sleep so others could wake. And yours. You don't write yours fully. Just a line. Still here, still listening. One night, as you drift to sleep, you find yourself not on the road or the porch or the boat, but on the edge of a forest. It's quiet. Too quiet. And then you hear it. A cry. Not a fear of effort. Someone is trying to cross. You run. Through the brush. Through memory. Through songs you've forgotten the lyrics to, and you find them. At the base of a tree with roots made of braided hair. They are curled in on themselves, shaking, flickering. You kneel. You ask nothing. You just begin. You're not broken, you whisper. You're just between stories. They lift their head. I don't know who I am anymore. You smile. I do. You reach into your coat. You pull out a candle. You light it with breath. You hand it over. You're going to find your way. But not because of me. Because you've decided to look. They take the candle. It flares. The roots loosen. The shadows retreat. And the forest breathes again. You rise. But before you leave, they ask, how will I find you again? You pause. Then you say, if you ever feel the weight of forgetting, light a candle. I'll be in the flame. And then you're gone. Back to the waking world. The air smells like ash and lavender. The window is cracked open. The stars blink slow like they're in on the secret. You add another line to the notebook. Returned another. Light left burning. Then you close it. Turn off the lamp. And sleep. Because, someone else will need you tomorrow. And you'll answer, because this is the life you chose. The one where remembering is rescue. The flame has become a signal. You start noticing candles left in strange places. Windowsills no one looks at anymore. Bathroom counters in the quiet hours of the morning. Gravestones with no flowers but always light. Each flame a whisper. I'm not ready to forget. You follow them, sometimes literally. Other times you follow them in dreams. They guide you to doorways that don't exist during daylight. To people who don't know why they weep when hearing a certain melody. To places where grief has settled into the walls like old wallpaper, faded fragile but still clinging. There's one house you return to often. You've never been there in waking life. But in dreams it feels like your house. The floorboards remember your step. The books rearrange themselves to suit your mood. The fireplace always holds a coal glowing faintly like it's waiting for permission to burn brighter. And in the corner your desk, with the notebook, always open to the right page, you write without thinking. Names, phrases, coordinates of memory, and occasionally answers. Answers to questions you never heard spoken. Yes, they did love you. No, you weren't too late. They forgave you a long time ago. You never needed to be perfect, just present. One night as you write, someone knocks. Not metaphorically. A real knock on the house's front door. You open it slowly. Outside a crowd. Not many. Just enough to fill a room with the warmth of curiosity. They look young. Not in age, but in newness. They've just started remembering. And they're holding things. One has a locket that never opened until last week. Another a letter they found hidden behind a drawer. Another still just carries an ache they've never been able to name. They look at you like you have answers. You don't. But you know what to say. Come in. You don't have to carry it alone. They file in. You make tea. Even in dreams, the ritual matters. You sit in the living room and tell them about the river. About the ticket that's always conditional. About the ferry that doesn't float, it decides. About the stories that saved you. And the ones that didn't, but stayed anyway. One of them asks, is this the afterlife? You smile. This is the between. Where forgetting ends and remembering begins. Another asks, can we go back for real? You nod. If someone's waiting for you, yes. If someone calls your name, yes. If you remember why you came here in the first place, absolutely. They sit in silence for a long time. Some cry. One begins to hum. A lullaby you haven't heard in decades. You didn't even know you remembered it. But you sing along. Because of course you do. When the fire dies down, they each leave something behind. Not for you. For the next visitor. A coin. A button. A scrap of poetry. A drawing of a hand holding another hand. They go one by one out into the night. Some will wake up. Some will dream deeper. Some will find their way back to the house. But before the last one leaves, she turns to you and asks, who remembers you? You don't answer right away. You think of the woman in the hoodie, the man with the letter, the mirror, the garden, the empty chair. Then you say, every time someone lights a candle, I remember that I'm still needed. And that's enough. She nods and steps into the dark. You wake with tears on your face, but not sad ones, grateful ones. The notebook is still on your nightstand, and someone has added a page. You didn't write it, but the handwriting is familiar. One sentence. Don't worry, we've got you now. You run your fingers over the ink. It's real. You whisper, thank you, and the wind through the window answers, like turning pages in the dark. The house begins showing up for others now. You hear about it quietly. People mention it in soft conversations like you talk about a dream you half don't believe. I think I saw a room full of candles. There was a hallway with my grandfather's voice in it. Someone gave me a cup of tea and just let me cry. You never say it was you. You don't need to. The house isn't yours anymore. It's becoming living. The door opens now when someone is ready to remember something they thought they couldn't survive. And when they leave, it stays with them just enough to light the way back if they ever forget again. You still visit it, of course. It shifts a little every time. Some nights the doorbell rings when you arrive. Other nights the hallway smells like cinnamon and dust and that old sweater you thought you'd lost. There's a room now filled entirely with shoes. All sizes, none matching. You ask the house why. A note appears under your teacup. Some never finish their journey, so we hold what they left behind. You leave your old sandals there, the ones that whisper to you in the underworld. They sigh as you place them on the floor. A kind of exhale you feel in your ribs. The room accepts them. You keep walking. There's a new section. You've never seen it before. A spiral staircase that moves downward. Then upward. Then sideways. At the bottom, a small door. You open it and step into a memory that isn't yours. A battlefield, empty now, smells of steel and moss. A helmet lies cracked in the mud. You pick it up and hear everything. The shouting, the silence. The last thought of someone who died before they were done being someone. You kneel, hold that thought, just for a while. Then you stand and place the helmet on a small shelf that rises from the earth. The shelf glows. Another memory reclaimed. Another name returned. Another echo turned back into a voice. As you leave, a breeze passes you smelling like leather and sky. You recognize it. The soul found peace. You climb the stairs again, and when you reach the top, you find something new waiting on the desk. A box. Inside, a blank map. A candle stub. A match that's already been struck but not burned down. A feather from a bird that never needed to fly away. And your name, written backwards. You hold it all in your hands. The box closes on its own. You don't ask what it means. You already know. You've become a cartographer of the unseen. A map maker for the nearly forgotten. Not everyone will walk the full path. Not everyone needs to. But when they get lost, they'll find one of your maps. Folded into a book. Hidden in a lyric. Scrawled into the margins of a dream. And when they follow it, they won't just find the house. They'll find themselves. Your job isn't to lead them. It's to remind them they already knew the way. You wake slowly. The box is on your dresser. Closed but not locked. A post-it note rests on top. New visitors soon. Get the tea ready. You laugh and get up. You open the windows. Let the light in. Pull out the good mugs. Because tonight someone is going to show up carrying something they think no one else would ever understand. And you'll pour the tea. And offer the fire. And tell them, I know, you're home now. Let's begin. It's raining when they arrive. Not the stormy kind. Not the cinematic kind. The kind that feels personal, like the sky is saying sorry for something it can't explain. You hear them before you see them. Footsteps on the porch, hesitant, hopeful, like someone knocking on the edge of belief. You open the door. They're soaked. Their eyes hold years they haven't said aloud, and in their hands a bundle wrapped in fabric. You step aside without a word. They enter. The house hums softly. You lead them to the fire, the one that's always waiting, the one that never dies. They sit. You sit. You wait. Because you know people speak when silence makes space for it. Eventually they unwrap the bundle. Inside, a letter they never sent. A photograph with someone's face worn out by time. A piece of cloth that still smells like a hospital hallway. A list of names they can no longer match to voices. They don't say much. They just whisper. I don't know where to begin. You nod. And answer, you already have. You pour the tea. Not too hot. Not too fast. Just the right temperature to carry memory. They sip it. Close their eyes. And the room tilts. Not physically. Emotionally. Like everything inside the house leaned forward to listen. They begin to speak. Haltingly. Wavering. Like a story learning how to trust its own shape again. You don't take notes. You don't guide. You hold. You hold the pauses. The glances. The quivers between words that carry more than the words themselves. You say things like, that makes sense. Of course you felt that way. It wasn't your fault. And sometimes nothing. Because sometimes nothing is exactly right. When they finish, they place the bundle in the fire. You don't stop them. The house doesn't either. The flames rise not in destruction, but in transformation. You both watch it burn. And when it's over, a single glowing ember floats upward. It hovers, then flickers into a shape. A feather, a word, a key. They watch it vanish. And then for the first time since they arrived, they breathe like someone who belongs to their own body again. They ask, will I remember this? You say, not with your mind, but with your movement. Your silence will soften, your sleep will deepen, your laughter will have more room. They nod, as if that's enough, because it is. They leave with nothing in their hands, but they're full. You stand in the doorway, watch them disappear into the soft rain, and when you close the door, the house sighs. Another story returned, another soul lightened. You walk back to the desk, open the notebook, write a single line. They came, they burned, they stayed a little less lost. You run your finger over the ink as it dries, and you whisper, "That's enough for tonight." You go to the window. Outside the rain is slowing, turning from apology to promise. You light a candle, place it on the sill. Not for yourself, for whoever's drifting, for whoever's at the edge of forgetting, for whoever's asking right now in the dark, "Is anyone out there?" And the candle says, "Yes, I'm here. Come in. There's light, there's tea, and you're not alone." Then you sit, notebook open, pen in hand, listening. And somewhere far away, another soul turns toward home. The house is quiet now, the kind of quiet that doesn't ask to be filled. The fire is burned down to embers. The tea has gone cold. The last name has been written for tonight. You sit back in your chair, not because you're tired, but because stillness is part of the ritual. The candle on the windowsill flickers one last time, then steadies. Holding, waiting. You think of all the ones who came, the ones who stayed, the ones who left lighter. You don't remember every word. You don't need to. What matters is that you were there, and being there truly there is what turned remembering into rescue. You close the notebook, slide it into the drawer where the others sleep. Their pages full of names no longer forgotten. Their ink still warm with meaning. You walk through the house one more time. Each room carries a memory now. Not yours, theirs. And in carrying theirs, you've reclaimed your own. You turn off the lights. Let the dark settle in like a blanket pulled up to your chin. No fear here. Only rest. Only the knowledge that tomorrow or the next night someone else will need a porch light. And when they do, they'll find it burning. They'll find you. Or someone like you. Because this was never about being the one. It was about being one more. One more soul who said, "Come in. I've been waiting for you. Let's remember together." You climb into bed. The room quiet. The world quiet. Your breath deepens. And as sleep drapes its hand gently across your chest, you whisper one last time softly, "Surely, I'm still here." And somewhere far away, someone hears you and dreams a little safer.